Hi, my name's Lucy Sanctuary. I'm a speech and language therapist and I am also a cognitive behavioural therapist. I have a master's in family-focused adapted cognitive behavioural therapy specialising in autism. That is a mouthful. And I'm also an ADOS clinician and an ADOS-2 trainer. I have a diagnosis of ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was an adult, and most of my family are what I'm going to term neurodivergent. We have a mix of everything: autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, you name it, we've got it. And I have to say that that has definitely affected my career decisions. It plays a huge part in what I do and the choices I make and what I want to do as well, definitely. I think that's probably true for a lot of people if they have a very strong personal connection with the area that they work in. I didn't plan to be a speech and language therapist. I didn't actually know what one was until I was in my 20s. Thought I'd be a teacher. So I got a job in a local primary school and I was supporting an autistic boy who was just wonderful. And I met a speech and language therapist, and that was a real turning point for me. I really learned a lot and I really enjoyed the work that we did together. And I thought, okay, that is what I want to do. So I always had autistic kids on my caseload of all ages. I've been really lucky. I've always worked with a wide range of ages and I really enjoy that. I still do. Used to work for the NHS and I trained to do the ADOS while I was working for the NHS, and I ended up taking on a role that was just diagnostic, and I was doing parent training and workshops for parents and training for schools as well. Actually, everything was related to autism. And I really, really enjoyed that. I worked with different consultants doing the assessments and it was really great. And at the same time, I started working privately with a small group. They're not small now, they're now huge, but they were small. And we were clearing NHS autism assessments because at that time, I'm going back a long time ago, at that time, there wasn't much of a need for that. It was just kind of pockets in different parts of the country. And it wasn't in the situation that it is now. So that was fantastic. I got so much experience of doing the ADOS then, and I also worked with a wonderful group of people and learned a lot from them. So that was really great. I really enjoyed it. And I was also doing therapy with autistic kids and their families privately too. I've always done therapy as well as doing diagnostics. I really, really enjoy doing the therapy. I used to specialise in working with non-verbal, very young autistic kids and their families. And I mean, I still have a soft spot for those kids and families. I really enjoy it. But the more therapy that I did privately, and I didn't have the kind of restraints on me that you do have when you're in the NHS sometimes, I realised that if I wanted to work in the way that I wanted to with autistic kids and their families, I needed more skills. It wasn't enough to just be a speech and language therapist. And so that's when I went back to college and I did what turned into a master's. It was 3 years in the end of studying cognitive behavioural therapy, specialising in autism. And it was just fantastic. I did a dissertation on what helps parents think like a therapist so that they can use cognitive behavioural therapy strategies with their kids. It was just wonderful. I really loved it. I'd love to do something like that again. It was just great. Then I went off to America to become research reliable, which is the first stage of the journey when you want to be a ADOS trainer. I really enjoyed being over there. I still am in very close contact with American trainers, and that was fantastic. And then I came back and I was working with Mariana Murin and Emma Woodhouse, who are both fantastic trainers, and Mariana went on to train me. So in 2022 I became an ADOS-2 trainer, which was great. I've done and still do courses with her and on my own, and yeah, I love it. It's great. I like everything I do. What would I say the highlights of my career are? That's so hard because I enjoy all of it, but I have talked for the National Autistic Society 2 or 3 times and I hope to do that again next year. I really enjoyed doing that. I nearly always talk half as a parent, half as a professional, because often I have like both sides when I'm talking about something. At that time I was talking about mental health and autism, I'm going to be talking about suicide and autism, and I always come from both perspectives, so it's a real privilege to be able to do that. I think another highlight is my daughter and I, for many years, we talked together to the psychology department at UCL. That was really fantastic. I now work with a very small group of different professionals who are my friends really now. So, you know, over the years I've kind of narrowed down what I do and who I do it with, and I feel very privileged to be in that situation. I have a supervisor for my CBT who's amazing. I have supervisors as an ADOS trainer, which is great, American and British. I really like to have that kind of international take on it and flavour to it. Yeah, so I feel really lucky. Really, I feel like I still have a really great career. So I'm really excited that you're going to train to do the ADOS. I hope that you feel about it in the same way that I do. I can honestly say, even after all these years, I've never ever been bored doing an ADOS. You always learn something, always, because even though you're doing the same assessment, it doesn't feel like the same assessment because everybody that you assess is different. And it's such a challenging, stimulating assessment to use. It's not like any other assessment I know. I think the thing is that when you train, you come to the course with a lot of knowledge about autism, but I'm not going to train you in autism. I'm going to train you in the ADOS, and they're not the same thing. And that is quite tough, because I think that most people have a kind of like, just getting their heads around that is a little bit tricky sometimes. And I think it's like learning to drive. You know, you're going to do this course with me. I am obsessed with trying to help people understand as much as I possibly can before we finish the training. So I do give quite a lot of pre-course tasks, and I give you quite a lot of post-course tasks, because you're going to need it. There is so much to think about, and I want to try to cushion your training, if that makes sense. I mean, you know, we're going to start coding quickly, and we're going to start kind of like, you know, diving into the ADOS quickly. So I want to try and prepare you for that as much as I can. It's a lot of information. And I think, you know, just like learning to drive, you finish the course and then you have to start the learning. So when you learn to drive, you pass your test, but you've still got a long way to go before you can feel really confident driving the car. And that's what the ADOS is like. But, you know, to be honest, as I said earlier, you never stop learning. You never stop thinking about it, and you shouldn't, because it's not that kind of assessment. It is an assessment where it's dynamic. You're always thinking, you're always learning. It's very, very stimulating, and it's important, isn't it? This is like such a serious assessment. So I really hope that you will love it. And I look forward to meeting you all.